NTR, September 2016. The Netherlands is in turmoil. A unique moment for Europe. The shadow of a monster hangs over the nation. Because once he has you, he never lets you go. North America, endless prairie. Once the land of dinosaurs and the largest carnivore of all time. Ruthless, mighty monster.
It is so enormous and it is so powerful. It is such a mighty animal. This animal is truly the king of the dinosaurs.
Until the entire species was wiped out, 66 million years ago. But it never completely disappeared. It still lives in dreams, in the wildest thoughts of adventurers, and especially in the minds and hearts of passionate scientists. Because who wouldn't want to one day stand face to face with Tyrannosaurus Rex?
We just never grow up. That's what a paleontologist is. Loves to study monsters.
We're taking you back, far into the past, to a remote place in North America, to an era we know as the Cretaceous. This is where Tyrannosaurus Rex lived. In that Cretaceous period, our Earth was inhabited by dinosaurs, until unexpectedly, a gigantic meteorite struck our planet. All dinosaurs became extinct. So too, the last breath of T-Rex. Here in North America, we can still find dinosaur bones today, 66 million years after their death. But it's like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Every dinosaur bone that on
Surface Comes tells us a story about the life of these prehistoric monsters. And we can relive those stories in museums.
With Naturalis, we already have some animal columns. Actually, only plant eaters. So we really want a meat eater added, and then a T-Rex is the first thing you think of.
Finding good technicians is extremely difficult.
So far, around 10 skeletons have been discovered. Only 2 of them are more than 50% complete.
This is my ranch, family ranch. Actually, it's my own private little preserve for natural placer.
Or whatever, I guess. Yes. Donley Darnell literally stumbled over a dinosaur toe while he was hunting coyotes. Called the coyote, in and on the way down to collect him, I stumbled on these bones. I knew they were dinosaur bones, so that's how that all started. And Donley's discovery set a lot in motion. A team of paleontologists is heading to Donley's estate. Paleontologists study fossils, which are petrified remains of animals and plants. They are the time travelers of the 21st century and specialize in dinosaurs. And if you want to find a T-Rex, there is one man who knows where to be. Pete Larson.
I studied Tyrannosaurus Rex, so anything to do with the Tyrannosaurus Rex, I spare no expense in trying to figure out where it is and try to
Annie
find
Schulp is the Dutch dinosaur expert.
He's going on an adventure with Pete Larson.
Finding a T-Rex and bringing it to the
It is
Netherlands.
incredibly fun to be able to excavate such a special dino like Tyrannosaurus. This is really one of the most evocative creatures. And yes, the more complete, the more
beautiful. There's a piece.
Of course.
There's another piece. Nice theropod bone, laminar. Just everywhere now, there's little pieces
On
of
Donley's
bone.
estate in Wyoming, beautifully preserved bone fragments are just there for the taking.
And it's
It is.
clearly T-Rex bone to just a solid day.
Die, just a little girl is all. Is that beautiful stuff?
Oh,
for the time and Barding and
Well, I guess we're going to have to set up camp. Yes, I will do them better. That is
The
pretty.
obvious, there's got to be a T-Rex here.
The expedition starts. Here, in this vast emptiness of prairie grass and sand, the researchers will live for 3 weeks.
Correct, just sometimes.
Far away from civilization, they set up their camp. It is not the first expedition team to search for a T-Rex, but most expeditions so far have not been very successful. The first step, mapping out the entire site and searching for all the bone fragments on the surface.
Bots do not climb the mountain by themselves. They only wash down with the rain. So you go back to figuring out where we find the highest bone. Well, that must be the level where the rest of the fossil was located.
The second step, create a grid to know exactly where each piece comes from later.
The sandstone hard.
The temperature on the prairie drops deep below freezing. It is icy cold. The ground is rock hard.
That is the loose. All the washed away, all loose pieces we will register neatly, so that we know exactly where everything is and can draw it neatly on the map later. We need to know how that skeleton fell apart, and that is a story. And it naturally starts here on this debris slope, and then we slowly work our way towards the slope until we reach the spot where the rest, hopefully, is well embedded in the ground.
It's literally thousands of little tiny pieces of bone out here. We could potentially be able to follow a trail of bones up to the main carcass.
Between the stones and the withered grass, the men search for small and large fragments of bones. They find more pieces of toe bones, which is remarkable because scavengers or rainflows usually cause the small parts of the skeleton to get lost. Here, they are still present. That suggests that the rest of the skeleton is also here.
Hey, look. That's a nice piece. You can still totally see that bone structure here. And here on the outside, very dense, very sturdy. Look, rock hard bone.
What we have found so far
Do you
is...
like it there? Like this little toe bone of the left foot and this bone of the left leg?
It's a good idea.
Good, as long as the rest is just in there.
A T-Rex has approximately 300 bones. Of these, researchers have already found almost 4% without needing to dig. A good start, but most of the skeleton should still be underground.
We want something that has never seen the sun since it was deposited. So we're looking for the first light of day to hit this 66 million year old bone.
Time to search underground. Layer by layer, the slope is excavated, with every millimeter a little deeper in time.
Step by step, always taking off a centimeter. So it's still quite soft here. We're slowly getting closer, so it's getting more exciting.
On this layer of soil that the scientists are now uncovering, Tyrannosaurus once stood.
67 million years ago. This land was very, very flat. There were mountains to the west. There were streams flowing out of those mountains. The climate was much warmer. We know that because we have palm trees, crocodiles that were living along with the dinosaurs here. A very, very different landscape than what it is today. Today we have the rolling hills, we have the Black Hills over here. When these dinosaurs were running around, it was just a few feet above sea level, maybe 10 or 20 feet above sea level.
The colors and lines in the ground indicate that there used to be a lake here. This T-Rex probably died in it and was buried under mud. And that's good news.
It's in a lake deposit. Nice, because you should have everything there. So we'll see.
The first bone underground could emerge at any moment now.
What was that, Craw?
Crunch.
See that here, that sound.
It is a problem for...
We've seen if I can see anything on
Further
it.
down.
Right down. That was a route. That sound.
The digging along
Poop
the
cries softly.
yields nothing yet. Time to dig further into the hill. The researchers dig deeper and deeper, but no trace of the rest of this T-Rex.
Box of bones.
It should be right there.
I'm surprised at this point that we haven't found them yet. Maybe tomorrow morning we scrape, and there's the top of a skull sitting there. I mean, we don't know, our hopes are diminishing, but they're not crushed.
What time is it?
E-beer? Beer 30?
Yes.
Okay, we're picking it up.
It is very cool.
The expedition seemed
To be
yesterday.
at a dead end. But today, there is new hope. The layers of soil excavated by the researchers reveal new information. They already knew there used to be a lake here, but the soil layers also revealed the flow direction of the water, allowing them to deduce in which direction the skeleton might have drifted away. The skeleton can only be found downstream, but there's one problem. There's an inconvenient hill in the way. What began with carefully collecting bone fragments has now turned into heavy excavation with a sturdy crane. The researchers realize that it's all or nothing today.
The site is a bit disappointing. We have yet to find a bone in the ground. Now that is the world of paleontology. You have the possibility of it being the best skeleton that's ever been found. Or
you have the possibility of finding more fragments, even of the skeleton.
It does not look good. The team has literally moved mountains, but the skeleton of this T-Rex remains untraceable.
The lake is so large we can't dig the entire lake up.
We are standing in Hope Zone right here. No bone zone.
So yes.
But this is the Hope Zone.
This is where it should be, for his download was that way. And so somewhere between here and there, we're going to find it here.
The skeleton can only be found in a sand layer. Without that sand layer, no T-Rex. So they are making a deep trench to see how far that layer extends. Will the magical spot still appear? Unfortunately, the sand layer is thinner than expected. No skeleton can be buried here. All hope is gone. 3 weeks of digging in the icy prairie ground without results.
So we have now officially exhausted the possibility of a bus being able to find the T-Rex. It made it over there.
It is true.
But right now we have no clue where to go. We have nothing to go on. So it's
The
over.
dream of the paleontologists, buried under tons of rubble and sand.
The slope of the ground and the distribution
The
of
position of those pieces of bones told us that there has got to be a T-Rex in that hill. I guess
Yes,
sometimes
the
bones
omens
lie.
looked fantastic, and then you dig further, and then it suddenly stops. But we did our very best.
I'll be back!
The blanket of sand in which that paw and foot have been so beautifully preserved became thinner and eventually completely stopped here.
The fiery hope from 3 weeks ago extinguished in the frozen ground of Wyoming. This expedition has amounted to nothing. But somewhere here, on that infinite prairie of North America, surely lies another T-Rex. A T-Rex waiting to see sunlight again someday.
Virma, I am late.
This time we are in Montana, on the border between Canada
Over
and
there in the United States.
Here lives Michelle Lunstra, a Dutch woman who years ago, and so ended up in Montana. She and her husband Blaine, of all people, happened to make an impressive discovery in their backyard.
Nick, my husband died. We were kind of looking around, and Nick, honey, I think I found a T-Rex. He took some pictures of it. We went home, and he called Clayton, a good friend of ours, the dinosaur cowboy.
Clayton Phipps is an amateur paleontologist from the area.
Because as I walked up there and I saw it, I was like, wow, this is awesome. I figured there was a great chance there would be more of the skeleton there. Spirits are high. Things were good.
The news of this discovery spreads like wildfire, and that's how it reaches Pete Larson.
He calls me. He says, I hear there's been a new T-Rex found.
And he said, how do you...
Did you know? How did you find out already?
A little bird told me you have found a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
I would think it was the same passion. You know we have the same disease. Dinosaur fever.
Pete calls the Netherlands immediately. They do not hesitate there. A new adventure is born. Anne arrives in Montana. He is immediately impressed.
And there are many more places where something can be found.
And this turns out to be a very special
The rain, the wind, and time have already done part of the work. Some beautiful bones of this skeleton are already on the surface as a result. The American and Dutch researchers join forces again and set up their tents. They immediately start digging again.
It's a good day so far. I don't know a dinosaur hunter who this would not be there. Dream big right now. We're trying to save every little scrap. We can see if we can find any more pieces of bone, just little tiny pieces of bone. And you never know if they're useful
We
or
have
not.
lots and lots of pieces of teeth that we'll be able to put much of it back together again.
Every year you get
Bone fever to work on a carnivore is great.
King of the hill.
Big menacing giant monster.
It's a boyhood dream to work on a T-Rex.
Rock, rock, rock.
We bring this back and we'll sort through it.
But when the bones come out of the sand, they are also much more vulnerable. The researchers treat the fossil as quickly as possible with an impregnating agent. That is a protective, glue-based liquid. It is meant to reinforce the skeleton.
The fossils, as they come out now, are fantastically well preserved. The sand that compacts does not deform. That means that the bones, as they are found, are actually perfectly preserved in 3 dimensions, and that is fantastic if you want to reconstruct such a skeleton. These 2 bones lying next to each other here, that's the lower leg, and this is the tail, or what's left of it. The tail is lying in several pieces apart. These are the closest tail vertebrae.
This T-Rex may have died on the bank of a river. A strong, crazy current dragged the carcass and deposited it in a river bend.
We should find the rest of the tail. Especially the midsection of the tail should all be there preserved.
The contrast with Wyoming could not be greater. The heat is scorching. Temperatures easily climb above 30 degrees. And after days of toiling under the blazing prairie sun, the researchers realize more and more what an extraordinary find they have here. They are especially speechless about the skull. Wow. Here.
This is an old beast. Everything about it is old.
Big and
You know, we're
old.
trying to look back at these animals that have been dead for millions and millions of years. It's almost like a crime scene investigation. We have to try to figure out why they were here and what they did. It's actually wonderful. I knew my wife. This is 67 million years old, and it all is. This texture is still here after all that time.
Edwin sees that it is good too.
Finding a T-Rex. Yes, that happens once every 10, 20, 30 years. So it's of course an incredible stroke of luck that we found this fantastic specimen after just 2 years. You don't often come across such a beautiful skull. A fantastic T-Rex soon in the museum. That is of course the most wonderful thing a natural history museum can have. It looks very promising.
If T-Rex were to bite me, then this tooth with the weight of 5 or 6 small cars on top of it would split my arm in two.
The team has been camping in Montana for 14 days now. The researchers want to know how big this T-Rex actually is. For that, they are using a replica of another T-Rex, Stan. The second most complete ever found. This is bigger than Stan. Phil Manning has arrived at the site. With a 3-dimensional scan, he will accurately map the position of all the bones.
And we are still puzzling a bit with the height differences of how all those bones are spread out here. A question we can only answer if we document the position of all those bones in every detail. And with such a LiDAR scan, we have that visualized in the shortest time and with the greatest precision possible. It's going to be an ongoing study to try to understand what happened here. So the more data that we collect now, the more chance we'll have of really unwinding this mystery. We can record nuance bumped.
So sonido granulado en este.
This way, you've always got a
3-dimensional reconstruction of the crime scene with the animal deceased. This is certainly one of the top.
5 T-Rex ever found it. If we can get one of these enigmatic creatures in Europe, it will touch the soul of so many children. So really getting a T-Rex in the Netherlands. Good job. It's not a national thing, it's a world thing. These dinosaurs belong to the world, and the world should be able to enjoy them.
Now time to take stock of the situation. What has this expedition yielded so far? Which pieces of this T-Rex have been excavated? And which remain underground or are gone forever? That's important, because so far only 2 skeletons have been found that are more than 50% complete.
These vertebrae, we have them large now. And the tail is here. These bones too. At the bottom of the tail, those are the chevrons. Yes, that is quite a complete T-Rex.
And not all the bones have been excavated yet.
Behind us, we have a lot of moisture coming in. There is a sort of front of low clouds moving this way and high clouds coming the other way. And they are likely to meet right above us. So we are a bit concerned about a severe thunderstorm here.
Roosevelt, it must transport. A time-consuming task that researchers handle with precision. But hopefully, they will not be overtaken by the storm. They get a sturdy harness of aluminum foil, jute, and plaster.
The book where I sit. I have the book here.
I know.
the bones have been excavated.
Was taken away from the prairie.
The skull has arrived at a research institute in Germany.
There we have a special CT scanner that reveals all the details. It is the very first time that we can study the skull of a T-Rex so sharply. And it's immediately noticeable that this specimen is exceptionally well preserved.
We see how dense that is, and then the shape here looks like the lower jaw looks like a degree. Yeah.
Anna and Piet can analyze the fossil with millimeter precision. That's how they discover something that has never come to light before. A thin bone behind the ear of a T-Rex.
So, based on that 3D scan, we can soon create a beautiful 3D print of what this T-Rex's brain looked like. And that might actually be a surprise, because if you imagine how much brain an animal of 13 meters would have had, well, it's not like that.
Or is it? That is much less.
For the first time, we are literally looking into the brain cavity of Tyrannosaurus rex. These scans will later be useful for efficiently cleaning all the bones and bone splinters and piecing them back together.
You're not guessing as to where the matrix ends and the bone begins. We know exactly where it ends and where it begins. And that's critical to really understanding what's going on.
This is 90.95, the Range Black Hills
We're
Genuine.
in Hill City, an old gold mining town in the heart of the Black Hills. This is the home of Pete Larson. He started the Black Hills Institute here, his own educational
center, and its own museum.
You know, we can go north and we can go west. We can go southwest to find dinosaurs. And if we swing around the other way, we're finding mosasaurs and Archelon giant turtles and things.
We're just in an area that is just filled with fossils here, so we're here because of that.
All the bones from the prairie have now been transferred to the lab in Hale City. The skull is also back from Germany.
Aquí está. No puedo esperar a verlo de nuevo.
Oh, well.
It was a very, very precious cargo inside this box. So it's very important that we make sure nothing could move.
The fossil has had to endure a lot of transport. Hopefully, everything is still intact.
Okay, yes, that's it too.
Oh, is it your birthday today?
The lab is now packed for...
With bones and splinters of this T-Rex, tens of thousands of small bone pieces need to be put back together. And that's an insane amount of work.
You're lucky if you get one match. Really. You could sit here for hours and not get anything.
All that puzzling takes an enormous amount of time, even with a team of 15 people.
There is at least 1 more year to go. Say 15 man years just like that.
Cleaning the hip requires the most work. This enormous bone will later form the basis of the entire skeleton.
Here is the top of the hip bone. It's like a crater here. This is the cavity, and that's where the femur rotates. And here the head of the femur fits into the socket.
Mistake, move back and forth.
Every square millimeter is cleaned with the utmost care and treated with a protective fluid.
During this meticulous work, it is noticeable that there are color variations in the fossil.
My house. Oh, I don't want it the smallest. For when it is stronger.
Maybe these are prints of skin tissue. That would be of great scientific value because little is known about it. UV laser fluorescence should provide clarity.
I hear the game with the laser again. They're more intense. Also in the dark, stuff is the skin, but I might be
The
wrong.
scan indicates here that it is not skin tissue. Plant roots have affected the skeleton in some places. A little bit of roots, a little bit of root erosion.
Yes, oh yes, definitely that.
You cannot protect fossils by leaving them in the field. Not only will they crumble apart on the surface, but even under the surface, they're being degraded by the actions of plants. These plants are literally eating this skull and destroying its composition. Not only losing the texture, but actually changing the composition of the bones.
For 67 million years, nature has battered even underground at this dinosaur, and the traces are visible. Fortunately, by sheer coincidence, it was extracted from the ground in time. Otherwise, it might have been lost forever.
Doctor.
A well-preserved skeleton of a T-Rex can teach us much about what life on Earth looked like more than 66 million years ago. That is why its bones are thoroughly scientifically examined. Soil research tells us more about the environment and habitat in which T-Rex roamed. The teeth of T-Rex are treasure troves full of millions of years old information.
Such a tooth is actually a tape recorder that line by line records the chemical information of T-Rex's environment in that tooth enamel, and it remains perfectly preserved for all those 67 million years. And it tells us something about how warm it was, the changes in the seasons, how high it was exactly in the food chain, very high.
Inside the tooth is a specific type of calcium. This shows that T-Rex captured its prey with skin, hair, and bones. In the bones themselves, scientists can observe growth lines that indicate how old the creature became. This specimen definitely lived over 30 years. And that is very old for a T-Rex.
After the major growth spurt, there are still 8 or 9 growth lines. This indicates that it's a very old animal.
A spectral CT scanner provides a clear view of the fractures, inflammations, and deformations this animal has endured throughout its life. The team has been working for almost 3 years. The skeleton is revealing more and more secrets. Thanks to the research of recent years, this T-Rex is becoming a creature of flesh and blood.
Two things that really stand out about this cup. It is old.
And sick. We are sitting everywhere. Yes, reject.
Holding up. We found already now 3 ribs, broken ribs, healed. And we can kind of reconstruct a period, or basically a moment in time of this animal's life. The rib actually was bent
It's
like
not
this.
like that probably got hit from the side.
Perhaps it fell on that side, or it was hit by a triceratops, maybe butted in the side, and perhaps that's what caused the break in the ribs, but it healed. It healed. She lived. Yes. And it wasn't just one rib. It was at least 4. On the one side of the jaw, we have 5 marks, with 5 puncture wounds that are being healed. That was from the bite of another transfix.
Compared to other T-Rex finds, these bones are very heavy and robust. And that says something about the gender of this dinosaur.
So there are these 2 different types of skeletons. One is more lightly built, we call it a gracile morph type, and one is more heavily built, we call it a robust morph type.
If you see how thick and sturdy all those bones are, everything we know about it so far, the theory is that those are the females.
The next phase. To assemble the skeleton, a steel frame is needed. It is welded to size so that each bone piece can be fitted without damage. Each component gets its own cradle for The entire skeleton is now being scanned bone by bone in 3D in the finest detail. This allows researchers from all corners of the world to use this discovery. But this scan has another advantage. Missing parts can be perfectly reconstructed with it.
So we have the right leg. We are missing the left leg, but we scanned that right leg and a mirrored three-dimensional print was made.
Tyrannosaurus Rex
Hannah,
was
until
buried in my recent house.
She is here in the Black Hills, but her journey does not end here. In an American's backyard, a perfect skeleton of such a dinosaur
65 trillion
was
years
found.
ago, he terrorized the American West Coast. And now he is coming to the Netherlands.
August 28, 2016. Finally, the time has come. Our T-Rex is making a journey across the Great Ocean. The museum in Leiden will be the first museum to personally excavate a T-Rex and bring it outside North America. The Netherlands immediately embraces its oldest resident.
Yes, there we go.
Never before has the original skull of a T-Rex been attached to the skeleton itself. That brings some tension.
Well, I feel a whole lot better when it's all set up.
Pause. After the Easter holiday. Not. And your sugar. I think he's the root.
No.
How come?
It's almost time. For 3 years, the team has been working towards this moment. The imposing puzzle of over 300 bones is now almost upright. Nothing can go wrong anymore.
Just get your line up.
Go lower down, lower down, lower down, lower down. Can you go down? Can you go down?
It goes right there.
The original skull on the original skeleton. A world first.
Beardagges read that the first distant hand the net has ever seen is a unique, this is the only T-Rex it is pretty cool.
That is the best I want.
But found it anyway. So what, the things we found it inside the big light. The first step is the way in the story can't connect the outer air to the inner ear. Well, it's one of those awesome science moments.
More than 3/4 of this skeleton were found. Now this T-Rex is among the top 3 of all time. But what makes her truly unique is the condition of the bones. It is truly unprecedented.
At the corner.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Oh.
To see this little...
Let's go. The jaws open and close.
She's such a beautiful, beautiful dinosaur. The most beautiful T-Rex in the world. It looks like it just crawled out of the ground just like this yesterday. You know? That she looks alive.
3 years ago, the adventure began with a dream. A cattle farmer accidentally stumbled upon a dinosaur stone. A first attempt failed. A dream was buried under mountains of sand. But eventually, Dutch and American researchers found their holy grail. After a sleep of 67 million years in Montana, she's wide awake again in Leiden. Her gigantic claws firmly grasp Dutch soil. Her posture, leaning forward, reveals an attacking stance. Ruthless, with that mouth half open, her teeth exposed. She is ready for young and old to grab by the throat.
Her name is Trix.
Once Trix has got a hold of you, she will never let you go. Trix stands there, but it doesn't end here.
The Tyrannosaurus and the Triceratops. They were contemporaries, and we also know that the Tyrannosaurus regularly devoured a Triceratops.
But the Dutch and American researchers have already dived into a new abyss.
It's completely full.
Having an absolute
Now
blast.
They have discovered a new site, a mass grave full of Triceratops. Triceratops are amazing creatures. It's a collaboration that can take years.
Because I may have great hopes that I will be preserved as a fossil as well.
NTR. Special for everyone.